Everybody knows trucks. Even heavy transporters have been probably seen by one or the other on the highway. But did you know that there are also transporters that are so gigantic that you have to close entire roads for it, especially abroad? But also on our roads it comes again and again to such spectacular transport actions, in which trucks have to move partly 100 meters long loads over normal driving distances. In this video, we will show you such unbelievable heavy transports. Among other things, you can expect to see the transport of an entire nuclear reactor, precision work down to the millimeter, and the heaviest object ever moved in the history of mankind. So make sure to stay tuned here at Wonderlane. The first transport in our video is not only heavy, but also incredibly long, because what this truck transports on its trailer seems somehow never-ending. Meter by meter, the truck moves forward with the oversized concrete component, with no end in sight. When it is finally done, you inevitably ask yourself how the driver with his 50 cargo now actually wants to get around the bend. But he actually manages it without having to stop even once. The next clip on our list proves that heavy transports can by no means only take place on land. After this space shuttle had been traveling in space for more than 20 years, it didn't have to fly itself on its last trip to a museum in the US. Instead, it was transported through the air on the back of a Boeing 747. Nevertheless, the last kilometers from the airport to the museum had to be covered by road. Although more than 400 trees and numerous power poles had to be removed for this, it is without question a technical and planning masterpiece to get a 78-ton space shuttle to a museum in one piece. Let's continue with the heaviest object ever transported anywhere in the world. It's this gas platform that had to be towed almost 300 kilometers into the North Sea off Norway in 1996. The $650 million gas platform, which is equipped with a lot of space for the workers and even with huge elevators inside, weighed an incredible 1.2 million tons. And so a total of 10 ships had to be harnessed in front of the platform to pull it out into the open sea. Our next heavy transport also required an incredible amount of preparation and precise work. In these pictures, you can see how a complete hotel in the USA is transported in order to reassemble it at another location in the city. The historic hotel, which weighed 1,650 tons, was to be preserved at the request of the city's residents, but could no longer remain in its old location. And so, in 1985, a company specializing in heavy transport dared to take on the unprecedented challenge of safely transporting such a large and heavy building in one piece. In the end, however, with the help of more than 300 workers, the entire hotel was successfully transported across the streets on almost 300 wheels and then erected again. By the way, it still stands at this location today. As if the transport of huge rotor blades for wind turbines were not complicated enough, the transporters faced additional problems during this heavy transport. The rotor blades, which are over 87 meters long and which you can see here, had to be transported up a mountain in China via extremely narrow and steep roads, and not only once, but 90 times in a row. Since it was physically impossible to place the rotor blades in such a way that they could be transported through the narrow curves and also fit under bridges, a special hydraulic system was used. This allowed the tilt of the rotor blades to be adjusted during the journey and the wind turbines to be erected on the mountain. Let's move on to a problem that the super rich have to deal with. Namely, if you build a yacht too big, it can't just go out to sea itself from the shipyard, but has to be transported there. That's exactly what you see in this video. A 73-meter-long super yacht is being carefully pulled out of the shipyard building near Amsterdam by several smaller tugs through a narrow river to the North Sea. When crossing bridges, it was sometimes a matter of centimeters, and the captains of the tugboats had to be extremely careful that the yacht did not hit the side anywhere on its journey into the sea and damage houses, roads, or bridges. Amazon boss Jeff Bezos has currently also had a yacht built in Holland, for whose transport he even wants to tear down a historic bridge and rebuild it later. Whether the Dutch population will go along with this is still unclear, so the billionaire may have to come up with a completely new transport method. Special construction machines used in mining are just incredibly big and make normal excavators look almost ridiculously small in comparison. But even such giant machines sometimes have to be transported, and you can see what that looks like in this video. Here, a mining truck weighing over 360 tons is being transported across the road by a much smaller truck. What seems pointless is actually quite logical. If the oversized mining truck were to drive on the road itself, it would severely damage it. This heavy transport, which was carried out in Romania a few years ago, again required the drivers to work to centimeter precision. Several 200-ton tanks had to be transported through a densely built-up residential area and along country roads with trees on the sides. Although everything had been precisely calculated beforehand, during the transport it often looked as if the tanks would cause huge damage any second. But since the entire route was additionally secured by employees of the transport company who communicated with the drivers by radio, this incredible transport ultimately succeeded without a single scratch. Our next heavy transport shows that even a distance of just 600 meters can be a fierce challenge. A submarine that was already beginning to rust had to be transported to a hull where it would be protected from the weather. The problem was that 700-ton submarines are rarely transported over land, so it had to be secured with specially designed giant clamps before being lifted onto two heavy-duty trucks with 24 oversized jacks and transported away. Have you ever wondered how a complete nuclear reactor is transported? Probably not, but we'll show you anyway. Here you can see how incredibly impressive it is to transport a reactor weighing over 1,000 tons more than 1,000 kilometers over steep desert hills and narrow roads. For the preparation, it was necessary to connect 10 truck supports and to use several trucks, whose drivers all had to coordinate with each other. By the way, thanks to the latest technology, such a transport should be possible in the near future with only one driver, who will then bear the complete responsibility for his multi-million-dollar cargo. The next transport in our list is not a classic heavy transport, but still more than incredible. Here you can see what a normal passenger train has to transport every day in Bangladesh. Unbelievable amounts of people that make every overcrowded school bus look ridiculous in comparison. In fact, this is a very normal picture in Bangladesh, where there are too few trains for the many people, and so they literally pile onto the trains on their way to work. While many squeeze onto the roof, others simply hang onto the sides of the train. Accidents do happen, but much less than you might think. People always help each other on these transports and take special care to ensure that old people and children ride safely. Last but not least, we come to a heavy transport, where you can hardly believe your eyes. A NASA rocket, including its complete launch pad, is actually being transported over the highway, and the whole thing standing upright. In fact, it would be more complicated and dangerous to transport the rocket separately from its launch pad to the departure point. And that's why NASA is using the heaviest transporters ever built to transport the cargo safely. The 27-ton track transporters then take the rocket and launch pad to their destination at a leisurely pace of less than 1.5 kilometers per hour. That, by the way, is slower than a turtle can move. That's it for the most incredible heavy transports of all time. Write us in the comments which of these heavy transports you found the most impressive. See you next time here at Wonderlane.